In 1901, the West was cattle country, and Tulsa was a cow town of 1,200 persons.
Broadcasting live from an Airstream somewhere in Tornado Alley, bringing you the people, places, and stories from the Panhandle to the Red River. This is your Only in Oklahoma show.
And welcome to the show. Oklatober continues. This time we are headed to Tulsa with a great interview with Terry French and the Tulsa Spirit Tours, and lots in store there. Plenty of history to talk about, creepy and otherwise. And coming up a little bit later, a mushroom cloud over Oklahoma. We can't make this up. There's 1,000 photos of it. I'm Brett.
And I am Harley. Did you kill me?
I know. I know.
You speed up and then you
slow
tack
down.
on your...
I had to put my
and I'm Brett.
I have to put on my signature, whatever it is. I don't know what it is. But, we spent... You remember when we did 31 days of Oddtober and it nearly
killed us.
We weren't married, but we almost got a divorce over that. You remember that?
It was bad.
It was brutal.
It was bad. Okay, so it's infuriatingly difficult
to work with me,
to edit one show with you.
Right.
Editing 31 shows back to back.
Right.
I'm surprised that I made it.
It was crazy.
Like, I should be the subject of a scary story.
Well, I'm looking at our 2018 podcast award for the People's Choice. I think it was for 2018. I think we won that award because we literally had 31. No one's ever done 31 shows in a row. I don't think anyone can touch us. And they didn't touch us.
No, it was a great success after the fact.
We've come a long way from a People's Choice Award to a complimentary coffee, but we're getting there. Well, I say we just jump right into the interview. Well, for the last 20 years, she has been holding it down as the Tulsa Spirit Tour guide and spiritual guide to the netherworld. And we are lucky enough to have Terry French from the Tulsa Spirit Tours right here on the OnlyinOKShow. Welcome to the show, finally.
Thank you. Appreciate you having me.
Yeah, so Terry, first of all, how did you become one of the leading spirit tour guides in the state, if not the country? Where did it all begin? Where did this passion come from?
Yeah, I guess just because I've been doing it for so long. I started 20 years ago and doing just the tours, but actually started before that doing paranormal research. I started one of the first paranormal research teams in Oklahoma, which is called PIT, the Paranormal Investigation Team of Tulsa. And back then, I always quoted as it was, before it was as seen on TV. Mm-hmm. And so it was very easy to get into places. You could talk to somebody, talk to them about their history and investigate the place. It was very simple. And people were like, oh, that's cool. Because it wasn't, the everyday thing on TV every day like it is today. So it was fun. It was definitely a time of exploring.
So how did you get interested in the subject?
Well, I was always interested in it. Showing my age a little bit, but I grew up watching, Alfred Hitchcock, Twilight Zone, stuff like that, and I was always very fascinated by the stories. My grandfather was a war hero. I traveled around with him and watched him tell stories, so I kind of think it's in my blood to be a storyteller a little bit. I worked at a place that was haunted back in the late 90s, and I knew, just from having this fascination with the afterlife and ghosts and what have you, I knew that what was happening at the place I worked was definitely paranormal. And some really bizarre things were just occurring at this place that I worked. And so it made me look a little bit farther into the paranormal world. And that's when I found out people actually do investigate the paranormal. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. I looked online. There wasn't anybody locally. The closest people I could find were in Dallas, Texas. And it was a couple of guys. They had a message board that was full of amazing information, and it was stuff that was way over my head, like quantum physics, and just really deep into the science of it. I learned so much off of them, and then next thing you know, there's a couple other teams popping up in Oklahoma, and I just met up with them in Oklahoma City, and the rest is history.
Well, and so much of the parent you talk about as seen on TV, I think one thing that's happened there's a lot of things that have been kind of, the magic has been diminished. I don't mean to use magic, but TV
Saturated.
has really, well, I was going to say castrated, but we were going to have to beep that out. I'm kidding. How do you castrate a ghost? I don't know. Ectoplasm? I don't know what it is. Anyway.
No, I was saying saturated.
I thought you said I thought you said castrated. Oh, I wondered why she laughed. I was like, why did she laugh at saturated? Anyway, I don't know. Can we leave castrated in? Is that a word we can say on the internet anymore? I don't know. I don't think so. We're of the age where there's a lot of things we can't say anymore, and that may be one of them. But it's so oversaturated, and there's so much of it that is we got to make results happen. We have to have evidence. We got to pull the strings, and we got to, you know what I mean? And I think early. Well, I remember 25 years ago where you may get a ghost hunting show late at night on TLC or A&E. It wasn't something that was everywhere, so there was still a little bit of that allure to the paranormal. You still had tons of questions and no real way to, like you said, when you first got started, there was no paranormal teams in the Oklahoma, or maybe one or two scattered out, but you really had to seek out that type of those groups. Mm-hmm.
It was hard because the internet was kind of coming up too.
For real.
So everything was also new.
You want to know what the first thing? Well, you want to know what the first thing I looked up on the internet was?
What?
Where is Ralph Macchio? True story. Now he's everywhere. You know, I don't have to look far to find where Ralph Macchio is. I met him in Tulsa once, but yeah, the internet, like you said, and even then, the information on things like that was really thin because it was still kind of taboo, even, you know what I mean? So,
for sure.
And most of us grew up with Ghostbusters, and that was kind of our extent of paranormal investigation. But how do you go from being paranormal investigator to being a spirit, you're a spirit guide? I mean, because if you're an expert in both fields, you're really kind of guiding people through the history, which, God, there's so much down there. I mean, just in the art district, for crying out loud. But I mean, how do you transition from that to being? Do you just go, hey, can I get a permit to do ghost tours down here, or how does that work?
Well, so I was getting all this information. We were getting a lot of history and information on these places that we were investigating, like the Tulsa Theater, formerly Brady Theater, Haynes Ballroom, Tulsa Little Theater, Tulsa Garden Center. I mean, we were getting into places that, had never been investigated. The Gilcrease House, for one, and I'm here to say that's the most haunted house in Tulsa. And we were pretty much the only people ever allowed to investigate it. Going through these places and learning the history and doing the investigations, one of my girlfriends one year just says, you've learned so much about the history and the hauntings and the ghost stories, you should do a ghost tour. And I said, that's not a bad idea because this equipment is getting very expensive. And I, kind of talked to the team and I said, let's do this all together. All of us do this. I said, the money we make will help us afford some cool equipment. And that's kind of how it all got started. And I did one on Halloween in 2003. I had absolutely no intentions of doing any more. We were kind of just going to do one to raise money for some really cool stuff. And my phone kind of rang off the hook incessantly after that. People asking me when the next one was, and I'm proud to say it's 20 years to now this year. So
you've actually written several books in relation to ghosts in Oklahoma. Is that right?
Well, I've written one book regarding the hauntings, which is Tulsa's Haunted Memories, and that was in 2010 through Arcadia Publishing. And my other books are about things to do in Oklahoma.
Oh, hang on a second.
There's 100 things to do in Tulsa before you die. Now, that came out in 2020, right at the height of the pandemic. It probably should have been called 100 Things You Can't Do Right Now If You Survive. But everybody was home reading, which is a good thing. So it did make a bestsellers list in June of that year. I was proud of that.
Well, we're similar. We're similar in that regard because we're an internet show about things to do in Oklahoma if you have internet. You can listen to our show. Go ahead.
Exactly.
Go ahead. Finish what you're saying.
And then my 100 Things to Do in Oklahoma Before You Die was set to release on the 15th of October, but I actually got an email today from the publisher that it's ready to go. So they are putting mine in the mail to me and the next day or two, so I should have that available very quickly.
My question about your 100 Things to Do in Oklahoma Before You Die. The OnlyinOKShow Brett and Harley. We've done 250 episodes of things to do in Oklahoma. So I'm wondering how you pared down your 250 list that you started with to 100.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was it like, the episodes that you liked Brett's voice the most on?
Are they oddly similar? Are they
it.
oddly similar is what I want to know. So here we are,
funny.
20 years later. You went in to do one, and you end up with two. Now you've got, I was kind of looking at your reviews. Everyone has something great to say. I saw a review that said, they've been to spirit walks all over the country, and yours by far is the best.
I know. That would warm my heart.
I know it, right? I was like, man, why haven't I been here? Because I'm scared of Tulsa. I watch too much news. I'm scared to be in downtown after dark. Maybe that's part of it. But
48 hours.
Yeah, I've watched the first 48. See, everybody knows. Tulsa's been on way too many episodes of the first 48.
Way too many. Yeah.
I
agree.
Yeah, I've probably binged it enough to know how many times. But my question:
and one of those homicide detectives, she's actually a regular in
Are you
my
serious?
classes. She comes on my tours. She's in touch with me all the time, so it's really cool because she's got such a high pressure, stress job, and she gets around such weird energy. She has weird things happen to her. I feel bad for her sometimes, but she's super cool.
So, being somebody with your hand on the pulse of the paranormal and the history of Tulsa, and a lot of the history has been highlighted in recent years with, the stories coming out about, the Brady Theater and things happening on Black Wall Street and things like that. Have you uncovered new material kind of along the way as those things have kind of presented themselves? Is it hard to kind of not go over the same things, or you find yourself kind of adding some new into the old as well?
It is hard after 20 years not to kind of regurgitate the same stuff I've been saying for a while. I've been talking about the Race Riot Massacre since I started these tours 20 years ago. And when I first started talking about it, I had people that were like, no, that never happened. And the people were shocked. And I was shocked at how very little people knew. And the city didn't like it. I still to this day don't have any support from them. They support other foundations and their tours, but they actually recently took me off of all their Visit Tulsa stuff. I was on there.
Wow.
And one of the ladies that used to work for them was really awesome. She would bring business my way. She would actually tell conferences coming in, we have a girl that does haunted history, and people were like, oh yeah, let's do that. So, there's a need for it, and people coming into our city want that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And she was really awesome, but then she got laid off during COVID when everything was shut down. And then some new people have taken over, and they took me off of everything. The
thing about what you do is it's great when the town will embrace you and say, here, come try this, taste this, experience this. Mm-hmm. But the Grapevine newsletter is probably your strongest promotional ally, honestly. And it speaks for itself. And then,
thank you.
Again, after 20 years, you talk about telling some of the same stories again. Is there a particular story that you tell that kind of has stuck with you more so than others? Some that you're a little bit more attached, one that you're a little bit more attached to?
The downtown, arts district is definitely the area I love to concentrate on. And it is where most of our history comes from, and it isn't pleasant. Even on my Haunted Pub Crawl, I talk about an event that happened in Tulsa prior to the Race Riot Massacre, called the Tulsa Outrage. Mm. And it's another thing that very little people know about our city, and it's another very ugly thing about the city, but it doesn't reflect how we are today as a society by any means.
You go into certain business buildings around Tulsa. I was recently in the surgery center over there, and you see pictures of the Gilcrease everywhere. Mm-hmm. Give us a little bit of for those playing along at home that may or may not know very much or little about the Gilcrease.
Well, the house that sits on the property was built back at the early 1918, I believe, and it was built by a gentleman named Flowers Nelson, and he was an attorney here in Tulsa. And He was building it for him and his beloved wife, fiance at the time, sorry, her name was Carrie. And it was said that she died a very tragic sudden death during the construction of the home, and he couldn't bear to live there without her. And so it said that Thomas Gilcrease just happened to be driving by, day after Christmas, and walked up, made an offer, and he sold it to him. Now, that house is actually made out of sandstone, which is taken right out of the Gilcrease Home, which is one of the reasons I believe it to be haunted. Sandstone has a magnetic energy in it, much like quartz that you put in a wash. So we believe that the contents of that house, what it was built with, could be one of the reasons it's haunted. But, and so there's nothing really tragic that ever happened there. Thomas lived there with his first wife, a couple kids. He had a second wife who was 19 years younger than him. She was Oklahoma's she's Miss Oklahoma. Or she's Oklahoma's Miss America. The second one, I believe. I'm a little rusty on my history there, but.
So she may have been the first trophy wife.
Yes, exactly. He was a little bit of a playboy there. They didn't marry for very long. They were in that house for about 5 years. She moved her mom in. She's company three's a crowd, and Mom liked to have these lavish parties in this house. And apparently he was kind of a quiet man and didn't like all the attention, and kicked them both out, and they moved to Missouri. And he just traveled extensively. He had, a huge art collection that he started there with the museum, and traveled the world extensively, leased out the house quite a bit, and eventually moved back into it. And then I think it was in '63 he died of a heart attack inside the home. So nothing really super tragic, happened there, but the stories that come out of that place are phenomenal. It's just insane, some of the things that actually have happened to us and happened to different night watchmen. They have a very, very high turnover of night watchmen there. The stories we've heard were just, some of the ones that they told us were just incredible.
So let me ask you this. And as a paranormal investigator that not only tells the spookies, tells the story, on locations like this, yes, because now there's such an oversaturation of paranormal investigators. They're not looking at you like a bunch of kooks when you show up. Mm-hmm. Are you granted carte blanche in situations like this with the Gilcrease, or do you have to go through some special? Are you on a first name basis with the caretakers? How does that work?
I used to be.
Well, I didn't realize we had
the saturation of paranormal investigators have really ruined that. They really have, I put that information out there of the places that were haunted around town. So
that's the problem. Yeah, you didn't bury the lead, and now everybody knows where to go.
Right. Yeah. So some of the businesses get bothered now, which I don't like. And people look at it as a novelty, and we never did that. We were very serious, very dedicated, and we wanted answers or evidence.
So as a paranormal investigator, I know each group that I've encountered, they've got, it's literally like Ghostbusters. You've got the scientist, you've got the the skeptic, you've got, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Where would you align do you have a fair amount of skepticism, or is it a case-by-case basis? Where do you find yourself more? Are you a sensitive? Who are you? Who are you, Terry, besides a pot stirrer? I'm just kidding.
Well, I am a little sensitive, so
okay.
I have had experiences. I bring things home all the time. In the grand scheme of things, I have become so much more of a skeptic than I was in the beginning. I mean, I would hear every little squeak I heard. I just knew it was a ghost.
Right.
So I've learned, all those years of doing this, I've actually learned how to tell what wasn't paranormal and what was, or what might be. And I've learned so much over those years. And I do have a ghost hunting 101 class, because I really do wish somebody would have taught me that stuff. It would have saved me a lot of money and a lot of time.
There are a lot of small towns that have things like this, and they have a lot of history. And so having a ghost tour in a town where, you have a relatively small downtown area, it makes sense. You could do a walking tour and you can cover all the places and talk
90
about
minutes,
all the things.
right.
How do you do that in Tulsa? Because Tulsa's ridiculously large.
It's dense.
I have several different tours, so I concentrate on different areas. So, like my haunted bus tour, we go, and concentrate on like VFW and American Legion, two places that are very haunted. And I pay them. So they're getting donations for our veterans at the same time from tour, proceeds. I did that I do different themes every year, kind of in a sense, and I keep that theme for a few years. Like when Tulsa Spirit Tours turned 16 is when I started doing the tours that kind of centered around naval history and the VFW and all that kind of stuff, because my grandfather, who was a war hero, and I remember when I was 16 years old, I got to travel the United States with him while he sold his book and talked to people and did conferences and air shows and all this stuff. And so that's why I kind of keep that theme for about 3 to 5 years, and then I change it up. So like next year, Tulsa Spirit Tours turns 21, so I think I might just do a pub crawl on the bus.
Oh, that's cool.
It's a good idea.
So I do try to change it up.
That makes perfect sense to me. I was wondering how you tackle, Tulsa's haunted. Let's go see it. That's a long bus ride.
Mm-hmm.
But I noticed that you do a lot of classes and workshops and that sort of stuff. What do you offer on that side?
Well, I've also been studying metaphysics for years. I mean, literally probably 30 years on that. There used to be a little shop at about 75th and Peoria here in Tulsa called the Herbal Glen back in the mid-90s. And I used to read tarot out of that little shop. And the lady that owned it, her name is Bee. She was wonderful. And she had all these really amazing things in the shop, from cards and crystals and, all kinds of stuff. And she had a whole garden out back. Well, her husband died very tragically, got cancer, and it took him real quick. And she was pretty devastated. She wanted me to buy the business. And back then she offered me the whole house and all its contents for $25,000. Which, is probably close to $100,000 today, or 75. And, I wanted to take it at the time. My ex-husband was like, no, we're not doing that weird, hoodoo voodoo stuff. He didn't get into it. So, I didn't
That's why
get
he's
that
your ex.
Yes. And so, I used to teach classes there, and she said she offered that to me because I drew in the most people. She goes, I didn't offer that to everybody. She goes, but you drew in the most customers with your workshops and readings and stuff. She says, I wanted to offer this to you before I just sell it. And I feel honored that she said that. And I had no idea. She'd never told me that before. I happened to be cleaning out a closet, working, I was getting ready to sell my house, cleaning out a closet, and ran across those old workshop materials from back in the late 90s. And I thought, I'll try this again, and people are loving it. So yeah, I do Metaphysics 101, and I also do like an introduction to tarot, dream interpretations, things like that.
That's awesome. How long do those last? Like, how's that laid out?
Like my Ghost Hunting 101 is a 5-week class. It's every, one night a week for 5 weeks. And we discuss different things like EVP, photography, doing research on your location. And then at the very end, we investigate the location, because I usually teach it at a haunted place.
Awesome.
And then the very last class.
I was going to say each one of those is like a different length, obviously. They're not all set.
About 2 hours, yeah. About 2 hours a week, and just little evening classes. Metaphysics 101 is the same way, just evening classes, a couple hours a night where I discuss, different facets of the tarot, major arcana, minor arcana, and what, each one of the symbols means, swords and stuff like that.
Well,
they're couple hours long and a couple weeks long. I'd like to spend several weeks kind of going over stuff, and people are enjoying it. So I like to do those in the winter too, because I'm not doing many tours in the winter. January, February, March is just too cold. So I like to try to do those classes around that time.
So a funny aside, many years ago, Harley and I used to do a podcast called Travel Oddities, where we talked about odd locations throughout the country. I'm looking at our People's Choice Podcast Award from 2018. It's been a while.
Nice.
It is nice. It was nice 5 years ago when apparently people cared. But we were like, hey, let's meet up for lunch. We were gonna go to a psychic.
I forgot about that.
Okay. So we go to the psychic. Now, it gets better. We go to the psychic. We go in. She's okay with us recording. She was going to read our cards, wasn't she?
Yes.
She was going to read our cards. She agreed to do it. But I think when she thought we were going to, I don't know, she thought we were undercover cops. I'm not sure.
Yeah. As soon as we pulled out the recording equipment,
she made us leave.
I've never been kicked out of a place.
Never.
Wow.
And first of all, if you didn't see us coming already, you're not much of a psychic. I'm sorry, I know that's the oldest psychic dad joke there is. But the funny part is, probably a week later, there's a raid.
They got busted.
Because apparently, I didn't know this, in the state of Oklahoma and maybe elsewhere as well, it's illegal to charge someone. I don't want to know if you charge anybody, because you don't have to say anything. Shh, you're not supposed to charge me for that. Anyway, it's according to some.
I don't know what the law is.
Well, it's
honestly.
some old Western like snake oil salesman law from the 1800s where you're not supposed to charge somebody for fortune telling.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Unless you're an ordained minister.
Well, I'm a Dudas priest of the Lebowski Lutherans.
I'm actually an ordained minister, so that I can read in the state of Oklahoma.
You know what's funny?
You have to be an ordained minister to issue or to offer any kind of spiritual advice.
I don't know if it's when we talk to Jeff Provine next week, I'm going to ask him if he's an ordained minister, because Stacy with Guthrie has officiated a few marriages. So I don't know if it's
I have too.
Yeah, well, let's not get too carried away. You got two bachelors here that are fighting off people saying, when are we getting married? He's 7 years in. Is that right?
10 years.
10 years in and hasn't popped the question, but I'm 5 years in and I'm under the gun. So the part where you say you can officiate is probably going to be stricken from the record. But the part that I am interested in is how do we...
It's really cool.
Yeah, the really cool part is not I can get you married. I want you to show me demons and like where I can... The best places to be possessed in Tulsa.
So I recently just started a new company called Edge of Midnight Event Company.
Oh, really?
And I plan to host dark weddings and dark photography and dark couples photography, dark boudoir. I'm going to do burn the dress divorce parties.
Golly. How many exes do you have? You've got a black heart for having only mentioned one ex-husband.
I only have two.
Hey, I think I have two exes. He has six. No, I was trying to figure how to tie it into the mark of the beast. So that's why I'm hesitant to get married. I've been married twice. Yeah, I've survived both of them.
I hear you there.
Both of my exes are alive, which means they still haunt me in my dreams. But oh my God, Terry, if we want to get in touch with you, what's the best way to figure out when's the tour, where's the tour, which one we want to book? Tell us how to get a hold of you.
Definitely on my website, TulsaSpiritTours.com, or if you Google Ghost Tours in Tulsa, I'm usually the one that pops up. I've been the one that's been around 20 years, and there are other people around here that they're starting some ghost tours, which is cool. I welcome healthy competition as long as they don't steal my material. Mm-hmm. And the paranormal stuff is all on me, so they can have the history that's open to the public. But if they start discussing paranormal stuff that happened to us on our investigations, we'll have trouble. But just my website is the place to get it, and or Google Tulsa haunted tours, you'll find me.
Now, do you only investigate current locations like Gilcrease and historic locations, or can people reach out to you and say, hey, can you come check and see if it's my pipes or if it's my grandparents?
My washing machine is haunted.
Right.
Jumping all over the place.
Yeah, is it Grandpa, or is there a squirrel in the attic? Is that
People
something?
hate it when you tell them there's a squirrel in the attic or that there's,
Spoiler alert, you've got rodents, right?
Yeah.
So do you do that as well, or?
We don't do that too much anymore. We like older, abandoned locations, historic locations. Yeah, I can assemble a team for that, but my team really isn't active in paranormal research much anymore. Again, it's so saturated that, we just kind of backed out and just said, have fun, guys, let the next generation do it. And they've got all the fancy equipment. I'm not into all the HTV stuff. Having like 80 TVs lined up in a row. That takes up so much time, and you miss a lot of stuff when you have too much equipment to watch. So, I'm just kind of stepped back from doing that, but we love going into old abandoned. I had a call last week from a lady who bought an old nursing home, and she thinks it's haunted, and wanted me to go check it out, and I'm like, heck yeah, I'll be there.
Dude,
so
yeah.
I'm working it out with her. So yeah, stuff like that I love checking out.
Find me an old nursing home that's not haunted, and I'll find you 100 of them that are. I'll tell you a place I'd like to have access to, and we're going to talk to Jeff Provine about it next week. But Griffin Memorial in Norman, that place, when you walk by there, have you been there?
Does it have a big fence around it?
No, you can literally drive up to it. It looks like something out of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. It was an old mental hospital. I guess because it's considered a historical monument, they have to leave it on the grounds of where the newer hospital is, just around the corner. It is if you ever get a chance to get down to Norman,
I haven't been down there.
You have to go check this place out. It is so cool. Yeah, it seeps creepy. But they quit letting people go in there because, it's falling apart. It's falling apart. Because Jeff told me they used to do tours there. I would pay any amount of money to get inside there. It'd be so cool. But if you ever get a chance to research that place, I know you're Tulsa bound, but if you ever get a chance, you need to check out Griffin Memorial if you're talking about old abandoned places, for sure. Well, with that being said,
I would love to. I love old hospitals. They're the best. And I had a surgery at one of the hospitals here in Tulsa. I had a tumor removed, and the buzzer kept pushing itself, calling the nurses. And I looked like a needy patient because that thing was going off every few minutes. And I was like, I'm not pressing it, I promise. And they would put in a new one, and it would do the same thing. Man. And it was like, and I was telling a friend of it, I was like, this place is haunted. Somebody keeps calling the nurse. The second I said that, it pressed it and it called the nurse.
Yeah, I'm done. I love
hospitals.
Yeah, I'm gonna rehab at home at this point. I'm out of here. Are we doing anything special through the month of October?
So this year on the Haunted Tulsa Tour, I'm actually mixing true crime and haunted history. So it'll have a little bit of both for Tulsa. Do
you think that true crime is like at its peak right now? Do you think that probably adds a little bit more, adds a layer to the tours now because people are so into that? Like 1 in 3 people listen to a true crime podcast right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. And there are stuff that I've dug up around Tulsa just trying to see if it led to a haunting. You know what I mean? So that kind of gives me that information, which sometimes they're haunted, sometimes they're not.
Terry, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show.
Thank you guys. It was fun.
I know it's like baptizing cats. We apologize. Harley's like, I've got to edit this shit. Shut up. But I think we did better. I think we did better than we expected we were going to do, Harley. I'm doing all right. I'm doing all right.
You just laugh.
What can you do?
I'm sorry.
Terry, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you, guys. I had a good time.
Terry is a wealth of knowledge. I don't know how she does all the things that she does.
I don't either.
I'm looking at her website, and she does classes, she does tours, she writes books.
Spirit guide, tour guide, TV guide. I think we talked a little TV in there too.
Possibly. Yeah, I don't get it. But again, her website, if you're interested in checking out the spooky side of Tulsa, TulsaSpiritTour.com.
And she can probably be found on Spirit Airlines as well. You know what? I'm disappointed at the lack of ghost costumes at Spirit Halloween.
There aren't enough.
How do you call yourself Spirit Halloween?
And you don't have any ghost costumes at all?
Call it Spirit of Halloween if you're going to do that.
Well, again, great interview. And coming up after the break, weather explosions over Oklahoma.
I'm Raven Rollins, and this is my Southern True Crime podcast where I discuss cases from my former hometown. Ada, Oklahoma paints itself as an average community, but its history of murder and corruption runs deeper than any story has ever told. You'll hear plenty of special guests, including authors and experts in their fields, who visit with me on each episode, as well as other cases in the southern states. With notorious and unknown cases alike, every victim sees the light on my show. This is Sirens, a true crime podcast.
So, news story from RepublicWorld.com. Mushroom-shaped cloud over Oklahoma resembles scenes from Oppenheimer after heavy storm.
The cloud made national news.
International news.
Because you just named a news source I've never heard of.
I've never heard of them either. But apparently this terrifying storm in the shape of a nuclear bomb mushroom cloud was seen hovering over our state.
The last time I saw a cloud like that was when Zool...
It actually kind of does look like...
Seriously.
The end of Ghostbusters.
Seriously, what was it, the Empire State Building? Put that underneath there, and I'm telling you, it's a scene out of Ghostbusters. I saw people taking pictures of it from Shawnee. You could see it from Shawnee.
Okay, so let's just...
McLeod. People were taking pictures from all over.
So apparently this thing was visible from lots of different places.
Oh, yeah.
It's ominous looking.
It is ominous looking.
But according to the Weather Service, it wasn't the end of the world.
But it's not common either.
You gotta think, though, if you're just having your cup of coffee or whatever, looking out over the skyline, and you see what looks like a mushroom cloud, and the way it's lit, like the way the sun's hitting it looks like it's made out of fire.
It really does. But again, I always go back to it. Immediately gave me Ghostbusters vibes. I was waiting to see like the freaking Stay Puft Marshmallow Man walking across the interstate, Zool and the gatekeeper and the keymaster and everybody, the whole gang was.
Well, the gang in question in this particular news story was hailstones measuring 2 inches across, heavy rain. So not quite the paranormal or end of the world, but
not dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria.
It's one of those things. You never know what you're going to come across in Oklahoma.
Yeah. Show them the Twinkie. I remember that too. But yeah, it's definitely an OnlyinOK exclusive.
So I'll include a link to the story in RepublicWorld.com in the show notes. Check it out. The pictures are cool. If you didn't get a chance to actually see this happen, the pictures are really cool, worth a visit.
Yeah, 1 in 3 people took a picture, posted a picture, shared a picture of this thing. But I'll tell you what else. A picture's worth 1,000 words. But it's also worth 5 million views. Can we talk about pictures of pictures for a moment?
Yes, we've had an amazing month over here at the OnlyinOKShow on our Facebook page.
Viral.
Our total reach for this month, 5,092,000 people have seen something
that
from the OnlyinOKShow on Facebook.
And we are quickly approaching, and maybe by the time this episode drops, we will be at 12,000 followers.
It's weird because I think it was just a couple of weeks ago.
We were bragging about 10.
We were bragging about 10,000.
And then we just kind of slept through 11. Because it happened so fast.
It's weird how the internet works.
It works
how
weird.
People on the internet work. Like what gets people fired up. And
they say the Lord works in mysterious ways, but can we talk about the internet? I don't understand how the internet works.
I don't either. But if you have some idea of how the internet works, or you have some cool pictures of Oklahoma to share, or if you've got suggestions for our show, the best way to do that is to send us an email.
Yeah.
OnlyinOKShow@gmail.com.
Absolutely. Or if you've got a review for us, you know how to do it. We live in a review generation. Give us a review. We'd love to hear what you have to say. But, hey, folks, we're getting spooky with it around here. Na-na-na-na-na-na-na. You know, getting spooky with it. Na-na-na. You know what I mean? You feel it? You're feeling it in the air even though it's 80 degrees outside. We're trying to crank up the spook factor so maybe we can adjust the thermostat. But it is, what are we calling it now? Oklatober? It is Oklatober. Plenty of spooktacular stuff headed your way. Stay tuned. This has been the OnlyinOK Show. I'm Brett.
And I'm Harley, and we're out of here.
Peace.
Hey, you really blew it on the last show.
I always say.
It's not how hard you get hit, but how quick you get back up.
We're recording.
Why are you so serious?
Because dude, you literally just came out and told me.
When do you get this done?
Well, I know, but you're like, okay, are we recording now? I mean, come on, have some fun.
Okay. Ha 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 ha. Are we recording now?
Yeah, we are. We're recording and it's so much fun.
All right, great.
Dude, guess what I did? I pushed the red button to record. Oh my God, we're on the internet. Well, let's have some fun and talk about some spooky. Tell us more, Miss Terry. By the way, we do really well with the Kiwis in New Zealand. So, and welcome to the show. We've
3, 2, 1.
Okay. I was literally doing it. 3, 2, 1.
You didn't say it.
3, 2, 1. And welcome to the show. We're rekindling something we did many moons ago that we coined it as Oddtober because we did travel oddities. We're doing it a little bit different now. I think it's Okie Spooktacular? Oklatober? We could do Oklatober.
I think that's what we've done.
Well, the reign of terror continues via transcript. 3, 2, 1. Well, the spooky tradition continues with the OnlyinOKShow, and this time, well, no, let me start over. 3, 2, 1.